What stood out about presidential daughters?
Presidential daughters. The one thing that stood out is, they died younger than presidential sons. And it was because early in American history, the pressure was on for sons and daughters to be successful. And early in American history, many women were determined successful based on the number of children they had. So the pressure was on for these early American daughters of presidents to have lots of children. So while the son was out there competing with the father, trying to prove to the father that he's good, that he can run for office too, that he can help his dad's political career, the daughter was just having as many kids as she could possibly have, and they just died from childbirth complications. It was very sad for me to see these daughters. Some of them are very strong. There's a chapter in here called Resilient Women, and some of the women that come off so strong, Patsy Jefferson is one, and Martha Johnson, Andrew Johnson's daughter, is unbelievable. The mother's worn out, the mother's sick, invalid. The dad gets elected to Congress, so he's going to go back to Washington by himself, so he takes Martha. So the daughter, this little girl, is his companion in Washington while he's a congressman. She's with him all the time he's in Congress. All her life she helps him. All her life she sacrifices for him and his career. She becomes de facto first lady. Her mother's upstairs, an invalid in the White House. Martha's running it. There's an impeachment trial on. They hate her father. She has to go down to the Congress and Senate and beg for money to clean up the White House. And after the Civil War, it was a mess. There's cigar stains and tobacco stains in the corners, and Mary Lincoln was a recluse upstairs in her last few months. There was urine stains in the corners of the White House. It was a filthy mess. Martha Johnson had to get in there and clean it up. She kept cows on the lawn, the south lawn, so they could have milk to stay within the budget. And she set some precedents in entertainment. She's just a country girl from Tennessee. And she set some precedents in entertainment that are still observed in the White House today. She's a remarkable woman. She named her children after Andrew Johnson. He was not there for the birth of any of her children. He was not there for her own wedding because he was so important. She always gave to him, and it was always a one-way street. And but she was, the one who gives is the one who's strong. And when you read this story, by the time you get to the end, you conclude she is a remarkable woman. The president, he has some good moments and bad, but she is a remarkable woman. There's some sad stories of women. I can't resist telling you this one because this one is so wistful. And Knox Taylor is a very beautiful girl. And when she is young, her father, Zachary Taylor, is assigned to the Mississippi Delta where he is building a dam. They're hit by bilious fever, which was a doctor's term for a catch-all. We think it's malaria. One of the children dies, then the second child dies. All of them have this fever. Knox is the third, but she survives, barely. But she had the fever. She almost died. She grows up to be a beauty. And now Zachary Taylor, the Taylors stay out of the Mississippi Delta. Now they're living in Kentucky, and there's this young gentleman on Zachary Taylor's staff by the name of Jefferson Davis. And he's kind of a cantankerous guy, and he soon has arguments with the commander, Zachary Taylor, and Zachary Taylor can't stand him. So sure enough, Knox Taylor, his daughter, falls in love with Jefferson Davis. And Taylor says, not over my dead body, so they run off and they get married. They elope. And Jefferson Davis takes his bride to the Mississippi Delta where he lives on their honeymoon. And she writes a letter home to her mother and says, I know you're afraid of this region, but the air is fine. They thought you caught malaria or bilious fever from the air. The air is fine, and I feel very good. The next day, she came down with a fever, and so did Jefferson Davis. And on their honeymoon, they suffered with a high fever. It lasted 3 months. Jefferson Davis survived, became the President of the Confederate States of America one day. Knox Taylor died in the Mississippi Delta. That almost took her as a child, but came back and took her as a newlywed. So that's a... I don't know what that proves, but it was to me a very sad and romantic tale of these presidential children.